But let me just say, rather than worship a white god that is patriarchal, because even look at it, you have a god that only has a son. Later, when you look at Ngai, Mwenenyaga, there was nothing like, there was no masculinity to him. But the problem with the pale god is that they have removed the divine feminine. When we're in a relationship, there's no fear, because what happens with religion, it creates fear, and fear sells. It sells a lot. So sometimes the man, straight on the head, you end up putting the fear that the church puts into people. I went on a journey in 2019 to Zambia cycling. I went to Botswana.
Yes.
Cycling.
Yes.
It was 4,155 kilometers. It was about 37 days of cycling.
If you don't mind, we would want to know maybe the main difference between being ITAD and being a vegetarian.
All right, that's nice. For me, becoming ITAD, it was not a one-day thing. So I'll start with being a vegetarian. A vegetarian is someone who does not eat meat. Okay, and then from a vegetarian, you'll have someone who's like a vegan. So a vegan now doesn't even consume milk at all, or even eat eggs. So basically, it's whereby now a vegan doesn't consume any animal products. Okay, so there'll be no cheese, there'll be no milk, fish, and the like. But vegetarians will consume some milk, but no meat. So for me, I started this journey in 2019. And when you talk about ital, ital comes from the word vital. And mostly you'll find it's being practiced by blacks, like myself. Vegan is mostly like white most of the time, but also you'll find vegans who are black, which is also okay. But ital is mostly started by the Rastafari community and also people from maybe the Caribbeans and the like. And basically look at a place like Jamaica, they have all the foods that the body needs, like nutrition. So they moved away from calling themselves just vegetarian. They went vital. So the foods that they eat are alive. So you'd eat like plants, like what we ate, like mishege, the blackjacks. You'll eat things like mubonga. And also you're going to take in like ngwashe, all those type of foods, mafake, kaorora, all those. Because, and you can even eat them when they're raw. So when people who are ital, they also source their food, where they source their food. So there'll be no cooking oil. So you can find someone is vegan, but they're still using industrial seed oils, which are of course chemicals. But someone who is ital will not consume industrial seed oils, and they'll not consume also animals. And also the way the food is prepared. There's a way, because you have to know where you're sourcing the food from, because the food has to be nutritious if it's not vibrant. So you've got, like what we consume is the fruits, vegetables, there are herbs, we're also consuming honey. And when we use salt, for example, some people who are ital do not consume salt. When you consume, we're consuming the black salt, which has sulfur and also has got charcoal, or we could be consuming the pink salt, but we avoid the table salt, which causes a lot of problems. So when someone being ital, it's a journey. So it doesn't mean today you say, now we are ital. It's a conscious way of living, whereby you're intentional with everything that you eat. So it's not something you're going to do just one day and wake up, you do it. It's something that happens in the mind. And the reason why I also don't eat meat, that's personal for me. I realize that I don't want to cause harm to animals, like eating meat and slaughtering and the like. But of course, I have my loved one, and she sees it differently, but we're on the same journey. Yeah, what holds us together is the love, but she can explain herself also much better than I would.
So as for me, I think the lifestyle that I've lived in, I've grown, people from Busia, they like this hard food. Bogo, nini. And I remember my kuhu's grandmother. When I was very young, she whenever they cook food, she normally says muweke yake kando hiyo imechemshwa. So me being a young girl and curious, nataka kujua hata hiyo ya kuhu ina taste aje. So you go and then my grandmother, she was a nurse in Amkura. She used to say eating food without mafuta is the best. So for me, anything that goes healthy, I can go about it. Plus my mother is also strict in mambo za kukula mboga and all that. So growing up with people who are kind of living the Aital life, nikazoea. So I sat like this when I got married to him and said, ni haja gani naweza kula hiyo item, sivyo? I have my mom who does that. I have my grandmother who has been doing that. She's late though. And my babus back at home, they do that. Naweza kula hiyo. And I also love also eating meat and the mayai and whatever. But ni haja gani tukule different meals and haizi kula, but mi naweza kula yake. See, it is good because when you eat together, that family sticks together. So that's why nikasema, we can just eat that, and besides, I'm getting healthy.
I think maybe in another world, you two are already together like in another world.
Yes,
because tell me why, from your grandma and now him.
Yes, and by the way, I never had a problem. When the first time I saw him, I think when I met him at my uncle's place. There are two uncles of mine. He's called Dr. Isaac Amuke. He told me I used to ask him, he does naturopathy. So I used to ask him, because I loved that from my babus. Again. Yeah. So he told me, there's another neighbor of ours, because my uncle lives around there. There's another neighbor of ours. I really want you to meet him. So when he came, and then he told me, you remember the guy I was telling you about? But he's not like normal guy. It's okay. So then
you are like, okay, you're not like, what do you mean not normal?
Let me see. In fact, I'm interested in
no,
that.
Even more interested to see.
Yes. So when I met him, he reminded me of my great grandfathers. You know, back at home, they do grounding. You can see their hairs, their everything. They're just like him. So I said, I like this. Yes. So they remind me of
so your uncle was the matchmaker?
Yeah, he's the matchmaker.
Thanks to your uncle. Now we couldn't be here having food delicious.
Yes.
And then also, we cannot, your teeth wouldn't go unnoticed. Please, if there's a secret, whatever you use, please, we don't mind.
Okay. From childhood, my dad taught me one thing. He used to say, Kuka used to like hygiene. So from childhood, my dad used to tell me, brush in the morning, brush in the evening, and stick to one toothpaste, especially which has in a fluoride. So I did that, and they also used to give me miwa. Miwa huwa inasaidia meno to
telling you should have come with a note and a pen. Miwa, andika hapo miwa.
And maintain. Unajua watu wengi wana after a long day of work wanaenda tu wamelala hawasugui. It's good to brush, and then when you wake up in the morning you brush and avoid sweets. To come hizo. And then you'll be okay. Now toothpaste, don't use the ones which have fluoride.
So for you, what do you use?
And I use the yes. And miwa kwa wingi.
Miwa kwa wingi. Miwa sana, underline miwa.
Miwa.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, for example, when it comes to television, the television is known as the idiot box, because what happens is not interactive. It's basically you're being fed, and that's why it's called a program. And you're being fed a program while you're having a meal. So what happens, and you're having it maybe in the evening. You're watching the program, you're having your meal in the evening. So at the end of the day, when you're going to sleep, that's the program which will play. And what happens, people don't realize that subconsciously, that's what's going to be. You're being fed subconsciously. The program, you're watching it consciously, but subconsciously, it's coming in. So if you watch a violent program on television, there's murder, there's rape, and people forget. those news anchors are trained, and they will talk about a murder, they talk about a rape, then later on they talk about a wedding that someone has attended, all with a poker face, because they're trained to be able to deal with it, But children, even parents, that's why you find out sometimes when people are watching the program, they're also giving side commentary, and the children are there, and the children are very young brains. And a child from the age of 1 to 7 is in the theta, whereby they just absorb. And that's why sometimes children can embarrass you because they have absorbed so much. So we as a family would not introduce the television. And like with the televisions, what happens is that people are spending more time watching those programs rather than interacting with their children. So I know we're living in the age of social media. So you cannot tell children that not to be on social media. When they see you as a parent, you're right there with your phone. So you have to lead by example. And with children, it's by them seeing, not by you telling them. So even us ourselves, we have to be very careful of what we consume. Because yes, I've got a social media handle, but I don't post like all the time. I could post from time to time, but I post when I see there's something that can help people. So even when we have children, we will try and make sure that what we consume, we're very intentional, that we do not consume those, because they'll take our time away from our children. Like for us as a family, we'll be very intentional in not letting our children consume the social media. And how will we do it? When our children are with us, we'll make sure that we spend more time with them, doing activities at 24/19 msitu, and also traveling outside, so that at least they are more in nature than watching screens. So we'll be very intentional. So it doesn't mean that it will be out completely, because it might reach an age where they might want to use, but we'll have created the foundation whereby they are more comfortable in nature than watching a screen.
Yeah, and just to add on the issue on TV, so I want to tell you a story. I love telling stories a lot. I have a friend invited me for a birthday. We used to be in school together. Nikaenda birthday ya mtoto wake. She was celebrating 6 months that time. Mtoto amefika 6. Unajua first time moms wata venye watakuwa here in the city. So nimeenda nikaona kitu very weird. Amenunua a tablet. So kuna that kakiti, sijui venye inaitwa hiyo kakiti ya watoto nowadays zenye anakaa alafu ina nini, it's rocking the child. And then ameweka tablet, and then screen, ameweka screen sijui coco whatever, melon or something. So mtoto nikamwambia amenunua nini tablet, mtoto ana watch at the same time kuna nini, nikamwambia it has spoiled development ya mtoto. Yes. When I was in 2022-2023 back in Busia, I went to visit my uncles and my babus. I went to my uncle's place venye amelea watoto wake. Imefika usiku, kijana yake, a small boy, anaambia babake tujakula nini, wamezoea hii traditional food, nasikia kukula kitu tamu. Babake anamwambia anajua Kenya ataenda kufanya, si ndio? Mtoto akatoa shati usiku, wakachukua some smoking things sijui zenye nini. Unajua walirudi na ndoo moja ya asali. That is grade 5. Angalia that intelligent, mtoto amelelewa ushago. And then the next day my uncle alikuwa ameenda mkutano fulani huko nyumbani, and we didn't have lunch, but kuna ugali we didn't have mboga that time, bado hazijameamea kwa shamba vizuri. So msichana wake wa grade 3 akaambia mama yake around I think around kitu kama 11 hapo, akaambia mama yake ameenda. She took her bag yenye the brother alimtengenezea with sisal. I love children ushago. Akabeba, kakaenda. Kakiimba wimbo kwa kiteso, kanaenda kakitembea. Unajua alirudi 12 na alirudi na ebale. We normally call iteso ebale. Ebale is mushrooms. Alirudi na mushroom, akaambia mama yake pika lunch. So ebu angalia huyo mtoto venye amefunzwa nature. na anatembea mguu, wote wanatembea mguu tu. Amefunzwa nature, na angalia huyu wa Cocomelon. To be honest, as a parent, to deep down unaweza furahia mtoto mgani. And plus, when I was in Ushago, I really loved my babu. Tulikuwa tunaendanga kuchunga mang'ombe na kondoo zake. Tunaenda huko kwa milima, pale kuna manyani. Unajua babu aliniambiaje? Beba penknife. Akanipatia penknife na tukaenda na yeye na penknife. Nikamwambia kwa nini? Akaniambia tuende tutajua ni nini penknife ni za nini. Si ndio? Tunafika huko kwa msitu tunaona popo. Tunafika tunaona avocado, ndizi. Akanifunza life of living in nature. Nikafurahia sana nikamwambia babu, by the time tunafika nyumbani, si hakuna haja ya tata in Kiteso is a grandmother. Kuna haja ya tata kutupea lunch. Akasema hata tunafanya lunch. Tunaleta ng'ombe, tunapeleka ng'ombe kukunywa maji kwa river, alafu tunarudi kupumzika, alafu tunarudi kuendelea kuchunga. So I love the nature. I really, hiyo ikanifanya nikaona, akasema naweza penda watoto wangu wakuwe hivyo. Unaenda nyumbani unaambia mtoto akuchimbie mkombero, anakuchimbia mara moja. Mtoto wa grade 7 kitira kikubwa hivi anakuchimbia mkombero. Ayo unashanga huyu ni. So do you prefer, to be honest, Cocomelon or an active child in nature?
Food for thought. Food for thought.
Yeah.
If I may ask, according to your diction, mnasikika ni watu mmesoma both English and Swahili. Na kuna kitu mention that you'd rather homeschool your kids but waende to the normal system yenye mulisomea. So my question is, wouldn't you rather let them waende shule pia wakue kama nyinyi, ama why would you prefer wakue homeschooled? And if you were to homeschool them, what exactly will you do differently from what you were taught when growing up?
All right. So I've met a number of homeschoolers, and where I usually attend herbal lessons at the Nairobi National Museum of Kenya. There was this lady who had 4 children, and I looked at the children, how they were. There was that curiosity. You'd expect that the children would be in school at that time, but she's a single mother, and she has like 4 children. And you'd see even the way the children are happy, excited, and they're hugging everyone, and they're not being like pushed that they have to wake up very early, that they have to wake up early. And that's one thing I realized with the normal education that we have. The problem is that children have to wake up very early at 4, 5, then they're going to preps. So what happens is that the children, what we're creating are not children, but rather they're robots to work in manufacturing. So it's like they're in a factory. And yes, we went through that system, and yes, there are certain things that benefited us, but we can enhance it, make it better. The time that we would be spending traveling, going and coming back, we can create a network of homeschoolers, because when you're doing homeschooling, you're not looking for self-sufficiency, that you teach them everything. We would like our children to learn about music, but not just lessons on music, but also to play an instrument, the drums, the guitar. So where we have maybe challenges, we get someone to assist. And then we also work with also other parents who are also homeschooling. So it's a network. And apart from that is what will you put inside the curriculum? You're not going to put whatever is usually put in the curriculum. We'll add our own, make it indigenous. Teach the children about herbs, about living with the bees, about being in nature, and also giving the children an opportunity to be able to travel with them, because children are sleeping for less than maybe even 7 hours, and most of the time they're stressed. So what we want to do is eliminate that stress. So that means we have to be present, work with also a network of other homeschoolers, learn from them. And as we are homeschooling, yes, the mistakes we'll make, but we'll own those mistakes, rather than say mwalimu hajamfunza ama nini. And yes, we benefited from that system, but we would have gone better, because what we have been learning is a Western education. So you find someone is being told, like the other day we were reading, there's this fella, Speck, that was being carried by Africans, black people like myself, to go and discover so-called Lake Victoria. It doesn't make sense. So it's like, It's only the white man that is discovering things, discovering Mount Kenya. Mount Kenya was always there. And it was not even known by that name. It was known by a different name, depending on the people. So we want to decolonize their mind. That's why we want to homeschool. We want to bring re-indigenization. We want to teach them about our culture, our rich history by us. Because there's a lot which has been taken, you know. And I'm very fortunate and blessed that I have Mpendwa here, who also feels the same way, because when you're homeschooling, you cannot do it yourself. The first thing you need is the support of a queen.
Yes.
Okay. To add a little bit on what you are saying about homeschooling, I remember there's a time tulikuwa tumeenda kuchunga ng'ombe in Ushago with my young cousin, the grade 3 one, the one that I've told you about. And I think niligwarwa kitu kwa mguu. Then I started bleeding. Alikimbia haraka akachukua blackjack, put it and then stop the bleeding. Nikashtuka nikashanga, kumbe blackjack leaves can stop bleeding. So vitu kama hizo naweza penda, will you learn in school?
No, actually they don't teach you that.
Yes, so it's good learn vitu zenye zitamsaidia. Vitu mingi zenye tumeona, yes, okay, na appreciate the good things that I've got from this education system. Lakini homeschooling ukimpatia knowledge zenye zitamsaidia. Vitu mingi tulisomanga in school, but hazitusaidii, to be honest. Yes. So naweza penda learn vitu mingi zenye zitamsaidia. So that's why I really like the homeschooling idea.
I think at the end of the day, it's what works for you and what you feel brings fulfillment to your life and maybe to your children.
Okay, so, on the same topic, as per now, hamna watoto, si ndio? As a mother of 3, I can assure you, kids are, sometimes they can be very nagging. They are blessing, a very big blessing. But saa zingine, you feel like you want a break from them. Don't you feel like with homeschooling, I'm not challenging your beliefs, but don't you think with homeschooling, considering uko na wao from morning to evening, the whole night, especially as a mom, don't you think saa zingine utafeel I just want a break from them? Kasa hizi, our kids wanapewa 2.5 months of holiday, the Christmas holiday, and we are already scared about that. Not because we don't love our kids. We love them. But being with them the whole day, the whole night, it's a big burden. Let me say that. Would you consider it a burden, or for you, you'll take it as a blessing? Ama, what do you have to say about that?
Okay, for me, having to deal with children, there's a time I had to work 2 jobs and also take care of my auntie's kids. So nilikuwa like 3 hours of sleep. So, okay, I'm not a mother yet, but for me, I believe venye utaraise mtoto wako, kama for example, niwaambie wafanye some activity. Kakifanyanga ka activity kingine nye umekapea na ni hard task. Unaona? Wewe unacheza mind game na mtoto, ndio wewe take break. Unaona? So you can be taking a break. Na sasa hiyo kanangangana. I'll tell you a story again. There's this I have a cousin of mine. Alikuwa anamkanga very early in the morning. Anaenda kudig. So babake akaona anangangana na jembe kubwa. That time is in grade 5. Akaenda akapunguza jembe, then akanunua the small one. Akaenda akampatia jembe. So huyo kijana anakuwa na activity. Anaenda anafanya kazi, anaamka 6, anaona babake akiamka 5 kwenda kulima na mandume kwa shamba. So yeye anaamka 6, kanaenda kwa shamba. Shamba yake kaanza kukua invaded. Anakuta mama yake amechuna or the sister amechuna mamboga, then akaambia my uncle. So my uncle akaamua kumgawia next to the river, so that asikuwe na hard time kumwaga maji. And then akaambia the mother when he was also there and the sister, don't invade this place. Sasa akakuwa na activity, akikuja shamba asubuhi anaamuka anaenda shamba, kama for example during the weekends hata before ende church anakimbia kwanza kanaenda shamba. Alafu akitoka, unajua watoto ushago anakujanga from school ya lunch time, anakula haraka anakimbia kuangalia shamba yake. So kuna activity mtu anaweza pea mtoto ama kuinspire mtoto, then you have your break. And that time the father sometimes analala akifanya vitu zake. So I think mi venye nimekaa na watoto sometimes, unajua hata mama wengi walikuwa wananiambiwa they normally wish I have my child, because hao walikuwa wanaboeka wananiachia watoto, alafu wanakuja wanasema hawata wachukua watoto juu wanasikia watoto hawapigi kelele mpaka 6 jioni ndio wanakuja, ama 6:30 wanakuja kuchukua watoto wao. Wananiuliza how did you survive? Naambia unawapea tu vitu tu wanafanya. Sasa vitu zenye ziko interesting. Pia the same kijana my cousin nilimwacha kama ati anang'ang'ana kujenga nyumba yake. We normally call it a siba for the young boys. Yeah, ameona mandugu zake they are big now, haendani nao. So akaanza kuweka isiba yake, anajenga, anachukua tu mawe tudogo anaweka na udongo nini juu haizi choma matofali. Sasa baba yake akaangalia mtoto akaona tu wachangangane bado, unaona. Sasa ni of late amengangana paka imekuwa kubwa. So the father akaona huyu kijana acha nifanye hivi. He called the other uncle, wakamsaidia kumjengea siba yake na akaenda akamnunulia mabati na kunini. Now the boy is living inside. Wow. So there are some activities you can normally at least and upate your break. I understand.
And also to add on to something which I realized, when you decide to do homeschooling, you don't do it alone. You need support from each other. So I'll also be giving her also, when she's with the children, maybe I'm taking a break. And the problem with our education system, we think that more is better. Actually, less is more. More is less, because when you give the children less activities to do, is that they also have time for creativity. You know, most of the time we are thinking of production. Leo umekata vitu ngapi, umefanya nini, how much homework have you done? We are looking at productivity. And that's the problem with the conventional system. It's more. How many, if you're working in a factory, how many cartons of product X can you produce? This machine can produce this and this. But you forget, productivity and creativity do not go hand in hand. You can be productive but not creative. So for us, even with the children, we would like them to be creative. And how do we do that? First, we have values. We support one another. And we create activities, as she says. But one thing that is very important is to support each other. And children also get bored very easily. That's what parents also have to realize, because I also volunteered in a children's home. Children get bored very quickly. So what do? You give them activities. But you don't give them activities the whole day. Let them also come up with their own activities. Let them learn how to play. Because someone said, if adults are making toys for children, what happens to the creativity of the children? And also what works well for us is that heading towards 50 years young. And so when you have children later on in life, you know yourself more. And then the two of us will have to create a parenting style. The parenting style of yesterday was beating and shouting. Some was over pampering. Some was hypocrisy, where you tell the child to do this, but you're not living that lifestyle. So we'll have to find a way that we are not speaking at the children, but speaking with the children, learning also from parents like yourself, where you had the challenges. So we take it in, because most of the time people start, even myself, I used to be very defensive when we started our relationship, but rather than be defensive, like what she has said, you've got 2.5 months and you're feeling overwhelmed. That's when you need help. You ask for help. Parents come together. You create activities for them, but you don't put them in front of the TV. So like what she has said, it's very important. We put it in, and then you say, all right, 2.5 months. That's 2.5 months. As we stay with them, for a long period of time. So we have to create activities, for them. And also something also I realize is sports is also very important for children. And I like to draw. I usually draw. So find out, what do the children like? Is it drawing, playing? Let them come out in nature and do things. And also sometimes parents have said, lakini mtoto wako kama mnamfunza atacheza na watoto sangapi? Aha. Most of the time the children do not have time even to play. That's one thing we should start with. The break is so short. The child has to finish maybe the homework, has to run to the toilet. In the toilet, they're like, how many children are there in the class? 70 plus children. Like the school I went to, we were 53. That was many years ago. But now, children are like 70. So you're talking about free primary, but it's not really free, because what you're giving them, the education they're giving, it's low grade. So it doesn't really help. So that's why we have to work with the networks. So let's say, for example, we're talking about 2.5 months. Also thinking like we're with them for 12 months. So the parents now are planning for 2.5 months. Now, toto. But someone said this, the children are your responsibility. Ni jukumu yetu kama wazazi. So we will work step by step. Wherever we have challenges, we go back. And also something that we put even in our curriculum are things like meditation, African yoga, sun gazing, children just doing nothing. Creativity doesn't mean that every day they have to be learning. Sometimes they teach us also. They just sit down, play and learn, and then they tell us what is happening. And most of what I have learned over time is not only what I knew, is what I've read from parents, what they usually say. Watoto tunachoka na nini. But we'll definitely learn. And I am heading to 50, 49 years. And I feel like this is a blessing because I am more mature. She's also mature. And like parents, when you've waited for a child, there's that anticipation. So we not say tumechoka. Alafu tukichoka na watoto wetu na watu wengine. So you can imagine if you are tired of your children, what about other people? But what I am really grateful is that I have a loving queen, and I wouldn't have done this without her, because if she had told me, homeschooling me sioni, hiyo sioni mimi na watoto hapana, nimeshawazaa, nimeshawalea, nimeshawapikia na nini, hiyo si utaweza, ingekuwa vingumu. Lakini kwa sababu mpendwa, tuko pamoja.
I'm telling you, in another world, you guys were together.
Yes, and another thing I normally say, when I was very young, I think even before 18 to 25 there, I used to tell myself, najieka katika ulimwengu wa ningekuwa mama, ningekuwa nafanya nini, because I really interacted with children. Nilikuwa najiambia ningekuwa ninafanya nini. I used to tell myself, kama wamejua sasa time wamejua kuandika, I tell them, maybe you take them to nature, learn 1 or 2 things. You go for nature walk, or you go for, they do some activity. Then I come and tell them to write an essay on what they have learned of their day. You create something. When even with children, you go and play with them. Unacheza. Unaambiwa kufunze wimbo moja yenye wamesikia kwa jirani ama nini. Or they tell you a story that has happened to them. Sometimes I normally sit with children like this and I tell them, that time when I was in Ushago, nilienda nikachukua watoto wa Sunday school. Nikaambia, I know my uncle is a pastor, so nikasema, I told my uncle, wacha niende nisikie wenye watoto, nielewe Ningoling with children. Nikamwambia, wacha nisikie hawa watoto wananiambia nini. Then I told the children, how was your week? Watoto wengine watasema, mama alinibo sana, sijui aliniambia nifanye nini. So I like listening to stories and the experiences. And then when you get to learn, mtoto akiona unajaribu kumjua what ni nini ili transpire in their life, or unajaribu kumjua zaidi, ataanza kufunguka mu na kuengage na yeye vizuri ukimwambia kitu.
I think you are lucky to have a blueprint of past experiences of people before you.
Yeah.
You're lucky.